wanted to be in. Okay.
Well, it looks like we're live. So I guess
We're live.
These two champs are in, and I'm sure some people will start to tune in. As you guys tune in here, you can say hey and post some comments and questions. But obviously, we've got Guillermo Gonzalez and Matthew Scotch, the most recent winners on the Kayak Bass Fishing Trail Series here, and I'm excited. So we will see here. Some viewers come in. We'll get some questions. Usually they start popping up. We got 3 people right now, but hopefully we'll get up to 20 or 30 people. Usually we get that many. But all right, well, guys, we're going to dig into, first we want to talk about this past weekend. You guys both had an unbelievable, epic weekend of fishing on the Trinity River and the lakes, right? The Fort Worth lakes, because this Kayak Bass Fishing Trail Series allowed you to fish several. So as Dr. Noisewater, as we call him, Ken Morris, I guess I got to point this way, Ken Morris and I will just go back and forth a little bit with you guys on, what happened in that event, but we don't want to take too long on this because really, and the truth be told, and you guys can confirm this, I texted you guys both a while ago about doing a preview podcast for the Possum Kingdom Lake, which is where the, Bass Nation Kayak Series Championship is going to be held, because it's like your home water. So I know you're not going to give away all of the goods, and that's okay. We're not asking for all of the goods, but I think people just want a general idea of what to expect when they get there. And honestly, there's not a ton of stuff online if you go research about it. Ken, I don't know if you've done much research, maybe not, because I don't think you're in that tournament, are you?
No,
but I'm telling you, there's not a ton of stuff on it, really, not compared to other waters, and that's probably because it's not a big national tournament lake as the Elite Series and those guys go to, but there's still some stuff out there. But these guys know more than they're gonna tell. But we'll at least let them get us in the right direction. So it'll be exciting. But quickly, let's just talk about this past weekend of the Trail Series. So you don't need to tell us any more than you want, obviously, because we're competitors. We got to keep some stuff close to the vest. But we'll start with Guillermo, because like in kayak bass fishing, there's tiebreakers. So the tiebreaker has to go to the gentleman that had the largest stringer in this case, because you both are winners, Saturday and Sunday winners. So largest stringer tiebreaker goes to Guillermo. So Guillermo, do you just want to quickly summarize the weekend? Just hit the high points, because I know you're going to do other podcasts, which, by the way, everyone listening and watching,
Drew, you froze on me.
Same here.
All right, guys. Well, I don't know what he was going to say. But if Guillermo, if you go ahead, basically check out the podcast these guys are going to be on. If you want the full story, we're not here for that tonight. We're just going to let him overview it real quick. He was going to let Guillermo go first. So, G, take it away and let us know just a synopsis of what happened last weekend.
Well, this last weekend was kind of wild, to be honest. I kind of mentioned to you earlier when we were talking a little bit before the show, I kind of took a big risk in this tournament since since the way that the KBF Trail is laid out. Every time they go to each location, they do 2 tournaments, a Saturday and a Sunday. So I figured, well, I got 2 shots at it, and I know of an area on the Trinity system where, if I get into them and I catch them, I know I can catch a really big sack. And it was one of those funny things where it just worked out. I got out there, and initially I wasn't having a real great day, but man, I made some adjustments about mid-morning that just paid off in a huge way. And immediately I caught a double digit. It was a 1033. And then about an hour later, I caught one that was a hair under 9. And a little bit after that, well, this was actually quite a while later, I caught a 7 something, and then I made another giant coal, and it all wound up to being 110.5 inches. And it's a day I'll never forget.
That's crazy, man. Like I looked, I was busy that day, and then I popped back on, and I was like, and everybody was like, Guillermo just came in with 110.5 inches. I was like, my eyes almost fell out of my head. Like it was absolutely insane to kind of like. And then I was like, I have to look at these pictures, like these absolutely giant, massive fish. Like it, and then like second place, giant, massive fish. Third place, giant, massive fish. It was just, I was like, dang, like why did I not go there? Welcome back, Drew.
Yeah, sorry guys. So my son, Theo, he actually went to the switch on the wall. There's a light switch that actually controls the power that runs the Wi-Fi, and apparently he just flipped it off. So Wi-Fi went out. We've taped it back, and it's in the up position tape now. So anyone with kids gets that. So anyway, hopefully we're back for good. Now he's about to go to bed. So anyway, but I was just turning it over honestly to these guys, I believe, right? Saying how incredible it was.
Up his recount, his real synopsis of the weekend. So
I got to go back and listen to my own podcast to hear.
Yep, exactly.
Guillermo's. Or I'll catch you on what podcast are you doing here coming up?
I'm going to do KBN here in a minute, but I got kind of one more funny thing to say.
Right.
So I think it was about, I don't know, I want to say right around 1 o'clock, kind of the late stages of the day. And at that point, I think I had like 101 inches, right? And I checked the leaderboard, and I knew Scotch had 102. And I saw that Jody had 109. And I was like, well, goodness gracious.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, well, my chances of beating Jody are pretty slim, so I'm not even going to worry about that. But I thought to myself, man, if I catch a 17.5-inch bass, I can beat Scotch. And,
there you go.
And so at that point, my whole goal was to beat Scotch. And the next bass that I caught was 22 3/4. And I was like, oh, goodness. I suddenly, like, beating Jody's not such a crazy possibility. In like 5 minutes after that, I caught, what was it, 21 something. I don't remember exactly. And that's what finally put me over the edge. So what started off as just trying to beat Scotch ended up amounting to 110 inches. So Scotch, you can go ahead and take the lead early as much as you want.
Yeah.
I'm glad I gave you the motivation you needed.
He's taking a little credit. He gets a little credit there. Because Matt, didn't you post that 102 inches within like the first hour or something? Tell us a little bit about your tournament.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, the first morning you couldn't ask for like a better bite. I mean, I was missing fish because I think it was just too dark for him to like get a good like beat on the bait between kind of a buzzbait and a frog early in the morning. And I was getting bit though, so I mean that's a good thing. And then it was just kind of like trying to dial it in that morning and figure out what I could actually get one to commit to. And I caught my first keeper, a 23-inch bass on the spinnerbait. It was kind of crazy. It was like the first time I picked it up, I threw it out there and one slacklined it, and my drag wasn't tight enough.
Yeah.
And I missed her, and I tightened my drag down and threw back out there, and I caught that 23 in the next cast.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was the only fish I caught on a spinnerbait the whole tournament, but I really didn't throw it. I really just frogged the whole time. I was pretty committed to throwing a frog all week.
Yeah, that's a fun way to catch them. So that's obviously something you want to stick with when it's working, because it's just a blast to frog them. So that's amazing, guys.
I caught them really fast with the frog. I mean, that on the first morning, and the second morning it was the exact opposite. It was colder, and the fish just weren't like responsive at all. Like I had 3 or 4 bass blow up on the frog with their mouth close and just knock it off of their little area there.
Yeah.
And they just weren't committing to it early, but I knew as the day went on that they were going to kind of heat up. They'd get a little bit more aggressive, and they would eventually, start acting, territorial and grabbing, things, worms and baits and frogs and, things you put in their bed. They kind of, irritate them and get bites. And I just had to stick with it. And yeah, I mean, most people don't frog from 10 o'clock on, and I just frogged all day long. And I caught my last fish the last second possible. It was timestamped 2:30, and in the past that could have been like a judgment thing with KBF, but they went and clarified the rules for every tournament, going forward with the current management, with just Chad in charge, and they said anything that's timestamped 2:30 is good to go. So, I mean, I obviously didn't catch a 21-inch bass and reel it in and take a photo in 18 seconds, but
Yeah, right. No, that makes sense. I mean, that makes sense. Now I know you guys don't want to give away too much, but can you tell us if y'all were on the same body of water, or did you guys pick different bodies of water? Because you probably had 5 different bodies of water. How many were in bounds?
we were in different bodies of water.
Yeah. So that's cool. That's very cool. And I don't know. You guys probably know this, maybe not, but Ken and I had such a similar experience. We're close friends too, and live up here near each other now. Now that I'm in Northeast Ohio, and he took, first on Pickwick one day, and then I lost to him via tiebreaker and got second. But we had a similar sort of like just banner weekend day. It was just crazy, and we were on opposite bodies of water as well, where I think a lot of people probably thought we were on the same. But you three all have something I don't have. What do you guys think you'll have that I don't have as
No
of now?
One of these plates right here?
Exactly. A KBF championship, any sort of championship with the KBF series, league, if you will. So national championship, Invitational, any of that stuff. I've got my just full of second places. You know what I mean? Second place in the national championship, second place in the pro tour to Jody, second place, I've had 4 second places, including that one via tiebreaker, second place in the original Open and Championship with when Tony Yang won it. Wasn't really the national championship then, but it was called the Open and Invitational in Santee Cooper. It was a long time ago. But anyway, you guys I'm jealous. You guys got to win. Congrats, everybody. And what an incredible weekend you guys had. I want to bring up one more point about it before we move on to Possum Kingdom, and probably going to take some questions from some folks that start chiming in on questions. But here we go. So what I thought was cool about this event is there was multiple bodies of water in bounds, but would you guys agree? I don't know the exact acreage of those lakes, but you're probably never going to see a bigger professional bass boat tournament trail come and visit any one of those lakes because they're just not big enough. Isn't that right? They were all kind of smaller lakes.
Eagle Mountain's probably big enough, and I think the Bassmasters actually held an event on Eagle Mountain before.
Yeah, a long time. How big is that? Do you know how many acres it is? Like 20?
If I had to guess,
no.
it's probably about 12,000 acres.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's kind of on the smaller side for an event like that. Maybe MLF go there something, but the other ones certainly are too small for that. So I don't know if you guys caught it, but I wrote an article for Bassmaster.com. It's up now, talking about the kayak and bass boat world kind of clashing to some degree, and how it's cool. I think it's really cool that our tournament trails, we go to those big name lakes that are honestly, a lot of them are only big names because that's where the big tournament trails go to, because they get paid to go there to market them as these awesome lakes. And there are so many lakes out there that are just as good that nobody knows about as much, except for the locals and maybe regional, because they're not marketed. Enough money isn't put behind them like those other lakes are. So it's pretty cool that, in kayak fishing, we should be able to take advantage of these situations where you have a cluster of lakes together, and it keeps us a little bit, obviously there's still tournaments on these lakes, there's local tournaments, but these major Toyota Series and MLF, Bassmaster Elite Series, Open, stuff like that. I think it's really cool to see kayak fishing do that. And this was a really cool example of that, just going into unique places where the kayak really, really excels. I just love seeing it. So you guys have any thoughts on that and how unique it is that we are able to do some tournaments with chains of lakes or things like that, river systems and whatnot?
For the locals, it just depends on how many people are in the tournament. But I think like the Trinity River event was like perfect. I mean, it was like a lot of water. There's a lot of different water. There was skinny water. There was big, open reservoirs. I mean, you had everything a kayaker could want to pick from for a bass fishing tournament. And a lot of fish were up shallow too. So, I mean, that always makes things interesting. But no, I thought the Trinity selection was awesome.
Yeah. Clearly.
Yeah, and, to add to that, this tournament, this KBF tournament, it didn't have quite the turnout that like guys like Scotch and I would have hoped. The two of us know very well that all of those lakes are capable of busting some insane stringers. The two of us know that very well, but the rest of the nation didn't know that. And then, it was kind of clear we only had, I think it was like 40 something people for the day one. And even despite that, it wasn't. I wouldn't call it a slouch crowd either, because we had guys like Cody, guys like Jody, girls like Christine, just a lot of really great anglers that came down and fished. So I mean, it still wasn't a slouch of a tournament, but I think it's cool that a trail can come out and kind of take that risk and go to a place like that. And I think it was really cool that it showed out as well as it did. And, Scotch and I are really lucky because these are just our backyard lakes. We don't have to drive more than 20 minutes to get to any of them.
It's the first time that's ever happened.
Literally the first time. Maybe there may not be too many more times that happens, but nonetheless, it was really cool for us to be able to showcase what we have here in North Texas. And I'll add to that, it's going to be really, really cool to showcase Possum Kingdom here in a couple months.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And honestly, that's exactly my point. I don't think you got as many people there, possibly because no one really ever on a bigger national stage has really heard of it as much or known what lives there. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times people are I'm going to drive all the way to Champlain because that's like a world class, or the Susquehanna or Lake Fork or wherever, you know what I mean? Because it's promoted on those major bass boat tours with so much money behind it. And you're constantly hearing about it, seeing those big bass that the pros catch. No one's ever done this for this area. And that's the beauty of where I think kayak fishing tournament trails can tap into those untapped resources, those untapped tourism departments that are dying for tournaments to promote their awesome waters and fisheries. And I promise you, next time there's a Trinity River System tournament, there's going to be a lot more people there than there were this time. After they, now that we've seen, what it can pull off. And if you guys don't know this tournament was actually briefly mentioned on Bassmaster Live on the final day of the Sabine River event. Lee Livesey ran up the Trinity River. He drove 100 and something miles and got all the way to the mouth of the Trinity right there in Houston. And Ronnie Moore mentioned, he goes, we had heard word that there was a tournament with some giant weights the day before on the Trinity. And then he goes, and then I looked into it and turns out it was a couple of 100 miles away in the upper part of the Trinity where we're going to be doing the Bassmaster Classic, Ray Roberts, blah, blah, blah. And I'm pretty sure he was talking about you guys. I'm a little bit, disappointed they didn't say it was a kayak tournament or mention anything about, KBF or a kayak tournament, whatever. But I mean, it's pretty amazing what you guys did. And I feel like we need to develop a good equation. This is for another podcast sometime. I'd love to do it for an average 19-incher or an average 20-incher. What does an average 20-incher weigh? And then you can tack on a few more ounces for the springtime and whatnot. And we can start to compare our, 110 inches or 100 inches, 90 to what is that in terms of, is that a 20-pound bag, a 25, a 30, you know what I mean? Because the whole major bass fishing world, they equate everything to the weight. And once they realize, because they don't understand inches, but if they ever actually realize how much in weight you guys both caught in Jody, I mean, they'd probably start turning a few more heads and maybe get a little bit more attention our way, because we've got some of the best anglers in the country that fish on kayaks, not because they have to, because we choose to. So
right.
Anyway, but any other thoughts on that, or should we digress over to, it's not really a digress, but you know what I mean, over to Possum Kingdom?
Just to retract a little bit, a quick Google, I believe this is correct. Eagle Mountain Lake is 8,694 acres.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So pretty small, but Dale Griffin did bring up a comment, which I showed it a minute ago. I'll bring it back up. He said that he thought they went there before it was the Elite Series, so it was like the Elite 50 or something, which I wouldn't be shocked if you see MLF there sometime, because I'm telling you, some people are noticing for sure, what happens there. And now we just proved it with only, like you said, 40-something anglers. Just imagine, but by the way, 40-something anglers, who cares? You would have won that tournament if there was 4,000 anglers. I mean, no one's getting to 110 and a half very, very often. So you and Jody and Matt, I'm pretty sure would have been right up there at the top. And Christine, you guys all crushed it. And just from Ken and I in the podcast here, we're big fans of both you guys. We've been friends for a while. And, this was just, you were just due. I knew it was going to happen at some point. You were due. and both you guys were due. Because Matt, you had a great year a couple years ago. A down year by your standards last year. So you were due too. Both of you guys were due, man. So congrats to you guys for that. And I can't wait to listen to a little bit more about it on the other podcasts. But hey, let's dig into Possum Kingdom. How about it?
All right.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
All right. So anyone watching, you can ask a question, but Matt and Guillermo have the right of refusal to not answer it or to answer it as creatively as they want. But I'll just quickly say, guys, I've looked at the lake. I don't know a ton about it. I've done as much YouTube research as I can. There's not a lot about it, but I know one thing. You got a river draining salt water basically from a desert into the top of this lake. It's muddy. It comes in. It drains off all the silt. Mid-lake, you got the clarity picks up. The depth gets a little deeper. And then this lower lake, it's like crystal clear and deep as can be. And from what I hear, there's bass everywhere. So who wants to kick it off first and tell us the brief overview of the lake, what we expect to see when we're there, whether it's vegetation, clarity, depths, things like that. General, there you go. That's a good view, Ken. Thanks for popping that off. You can see that's pretty much how it looks. So how about we'll go with Matt this time first, because we led off with Guillermo last time with that tiebreaker, 110.5 inches. So Matt, just tell us a little bit of your overall opening synopsis, and then we'll start digging into some deeper stuff.
You seem like you already know plenty about it. I mean, you led off with just about as detailed a description as you can do for Possum Kingdom.
All right, podcast over.
Cut it.
It's over. That's all you're getting from Matt, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
things to keep.
Here's the thing. Something to keep in mind is if we have a lot of rain in the springtime, if you look at that arm of the Brazos that's really dirty that runs into Possum Kingdom Lake, the whole lake can look like that.
Okay.
So, you need to be paying attention to how much rain we might get in Texas or West Texas, how much water is coming into Possum Kingdom Lake. Because if it's like flooding out west in West Texas and that water is running into the Brazos River system, Possum Kingdom Lake is going to be very dirty and very stained. It won't look like the satellite image you're seeing. So, yeah, your description of the lake is like spot on as far as like how the river runs in and the water clarity. It is more turbid up north and stained, and it gets cleaner towards the dam. It's just a progression the closer you get. Down towards the dam, if it's clear, you could have 8 to 10 foot of visibility. Up north, you could have less than a foot.
Okay.
You're going to have less than an inch.
Yeah,
well,
right.
I mean, that's less than a foot.
Yeah, if you go way up there, right? But what about, Guillermo, what about any sort of, what kind of cover, vegetation, docks, anything like that? What kind of stuff is on the lake? And where do you think in June, where do you think the water temps, I know obviously we're a long ways away and you don't know exactly, but where do you think, obviously we'll be post-spawn at in some point, but where do you think the water temps may hover? And how far post-spawn do you think will be? Like a month away, like from when they spawn, or do we have any clue?
I'd say we should be more than likely the bass will have been done spawning, and we'll kind of be at the tail end, the very, very, very tail end of the shad spawn. It might even be completely over at that point. But the bass will have been done spawning a while before that, probably. But
so
they should still be kind of at the heat or near the end of that, that just real hot post-spawn chew, once they get done spawning. I mean, it should be right near the end of that. Usually on PK around July, things start to get kind of tough, but the fact that it's in June, I think is great.
Yeah, in early June too. What about vegetation? Is there any real vegetation in the lake? We're gonna see. Is that going to play, or is it more hardcover like wood and rock?
There's very, very limited amounts of vegetation. Very limited. There's you might, if you're lucky, and that some years it grows, some years it doesn't. You might see some grass and some shallow water, but there's honestly, I haven't seen it in a long time.
Right.
But there's some terrestrial vegetation in the form of like willow grass. There's here and there's some reeds. But most of PK is, I'd have to say, is probably it's real rocky. There's a lot of rock. There's a river channel dividing, basically going down the whole lake. If people like doing that kind of thing, river channel fishing, ledge fishing, but
is there any clay? Any clay? Like is there any clay when it transitions from rock on the bank to? Is it clay when it's not rock, or is it what kind of soil is it? Or is it just all rock?
There's a little bit of clay, but it's.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, there's a lot of sand. Honestly,
okay,
surprising. But there is clay, and it's that Brazos River red clay that comes out from out west.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Now we got a question up here from Eric Morris. He says, "What are your thoughts, guys, on what it'll take each day for the tourney?" But just to back up real quick, if you're listening to this podcast, guys, you're unsure what we're talking about. This is again the Bass Nation Kayak Series Championship. So I personally have been referring to it as the Kayak Classic because it's held in conjunction with the Bassmaster Classic. So that's kind of what I've been calling it. But either way, it's the championship, and you had to qualify to get into it. You guys are both qualified, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll be there. You guys will be there. And this is a pretty big deal. I believe that whoever holds the trophy on that stage, it will be as significant as, if not more significant than Bobby Murray, who lifted the first Bassmaster Classic trophy. I really believe that because of the growth of our sport and where the low cost of entry with kayak fishing, where it can take it. So anyway, that's just sort of my thoughts on it. And that's what we're talking about here. So what are you guys' thoughts on what it'll take each day for this tournament, 2-day tournament in early June?
It's going to be tough to say, honestly. I mean, I'll go first. It's going to be tough to say. I mean, it's a tough lake to the fish, in my opinion. Like big fish aren't going to be really grouped up together, and I feel like you're going to have to like randomly get each one. And so that's tough. It's tough to be consistent when you have to fish like that. You know, you're not going to be able to. It's not like some lakes where you pull up to some grass patch and you're just going to freaking throw a chatterbait and catch you a good limit because it's not going to work like that on Possum Kingdom. You're going to have to get fish by fish, and you know that's more of a grind kind of event, and especially that time of year. So I think if you can consistently get 90 inches, you're going to give yourself a shot both days.
Yeah, pretty typical, I guess, in tournaments. Guillermo, you kind of agree, 90-ish inches,
90-ish.
couple days.
Now, I'll go off of what Matt said. You know, we're getting into June, so a lot of the real hot fishing is starting to peter out, but it's still kind of around. I do think a lot of fish are going to get caught, but I also think that a lot of areas are going to get mowed over pretty good, especially the good areas. So I think it's going to be difficult to be consistent in this tournament. But with all that being said, Possum Kingdom does have the potential for a super giant sack, for someone to really put together a giant sack. Now, in June, I'll say it's a little less likely. Like Matt said, the big fish are a little less grouped up, but the potential's there for sure. I mean, you hear about 30-plus pound sacks getting caught in bass boat tournaments out there all the time. And I know personally, I've had some insane days on Possum Kingdom. I've never had one of those days in a tournament, so I'm looking to turn that around. But I've had some great days out there just having a good time. It's honestly one of my favorite fisheries in the state, and I was really excited to see that they chose to go there because I think it's going to be a much more enjoyable experience for the kayak anglers. And on top of that, it's a beautiful place. So I'm excited to get the opportunity to share it with everybody.
Yeah, for sure. And talking about sharing it with everybody, do you still guide, Guillermo? I know, Matt, you guide, but do you you guys both guide?
I do, and Guillermo.
I host a few trips with Backwoods Adventures every year, but Scotch does the majority of the heavy lifting when it comes to guiding clients.
All right. So you guys out there listening, if you want to go to Texas and catch these giant fish that you saw this past weekend, they got plenty of lakes in the area to do it. I've seen Matt guiding on Fork. I've seen him guiding everywhere. Possum Kingdom, the Brazos, the Trinity River system. Yeah. It's unbelievable, man. Like you guys are just in the middle of some giant fish. So if anybody wants to go catch a personal best or just learn a little bit more about targeting bigger bass, which I always, preach and talk about on this podcast. It's like you're fishing for a different species of bass than the smaller bass. They're like, it's like a redfish, it lives in the marsh. And then once it's a bull, the redfish move out and they live offshore. You know what I mean? You got to catch fish for bull redfish a little bit different than you do offshore. I feel like bass, it's almost similar. If you're just trying to target the biggest bass, it's almost like you got to throw everything else out the window sometimes and fish for them like a separate species. But anyway, it just depends on the time of year and whatnot. So
for Ron asked, like, what kind of air temperature can we expect? So what's your typical weather in June, just for people to kind of prepare for what they need to be for out of towners?
It'll probably be like lows in the 70s and highs in the low 90s.
Mm-hmm.
That's most likely.
Yeah. It's going to feel good to jump in.
Every now and then you get a real cold morning in June, but it's pretty rare.
Right. Hey, I'm not going to let this comment right here pass us up because I sense some sarcasm in it. So Antoine from Canada says, "Hey guys, I'll be representing Canada at the event. Thanks, Matt, for helping me out." So I think he made that comment when you made your first little. There you go. You've covered the lake and you're good. So
no. I'm actually loaning Anton a Hobie Outback for the event.
Okay, gotcha. I thought he was being funny and being sarcastic. So
no.
All right. So you really
he truly appreciates what I'm helping him out.
You really are helping him out. All right, there you go, Antoine. I thought you were a funny guy, but apparently not. All right, no, I'm just kidding.
Apparently you're just genuine.
Yeah, you're just very genuine, and yeah, which is commendable as well. Okay, so thanks for tuning in, guys. Let's see. So yeah, he just says he's serious. So all right, what is the next big thing we want to get into about this lake? Because I know you guys got to get on to another podcast, so I don't want to take you too long. But now we've talked about air temperature, and then. So you think water temperature, if it's just in that post spawn, I'm thinking, you tell me if I'm wrong, that's got to be, if you're a few weeks after the spawn, it's probably in like the high 70s, 80, low 80s at that point, or is it even warmer by then?
That could be.
It's probably going to be in the 80s.
Yeah, probably. If the lows are in the 70s, the highs could reach 90s. You usually split the difference. That's where your water temperature is. I mean.
Yeah.
So the thing that I'm bummed about, just so you guys know me, this is Hooked on Wild Waters. I like rivers. It just doesn't look like there's a lot of that in this lake. So I'm going to have to go fish the lake because you just don't have any really running water flowing in. The only water that is flowing in, if there's been rain west of you guys in the desert, is chocolate milk. So, and if you do any research, guys, I'm going to tell you the tip right now. It's very salty. So it's not the best for bass habitat up there, but you can certainly go try. It's not going to stop me from trying. Trust me, I'm going to try to make it work. I'm going to force feed fish in a river as much as I can. And if it doesn't work, then I got to go to the lake, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to work. But anyway, so do you guys agree there's just not really this is not really the best. That's why I was looking forward more to Louisville, to be honest with you, but it's not really going to be a river dominated tournament. This is going to be a lake tournament. It sounds like.
But the lake is a giant river, and you got to think about it like that. It's just a dammed up giant river, and it's just bigger, a little wider, not as narrow, but same thing. It's just a river lake.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of wisdom.
Kind of like in the Tennessee River. I mean, if they get to pulling water, there can be current out on the lake. It can happen. Is it kind of unlikely? Yeah, it's pretty unlikely. But it's possible. You just never know. It's really dependent on rain. That lake is the way that it fishes can change drastically from one day to another, depending on rain, clouds, sun, all that. That's one thing I am going to say. One tip that I can give is I think anglers are going to need to really stay on their toes, really look at conditions, and make their decisions based on that because things will change.
Yeah. Now, if you guys have any questions, feel free to chime in. This is your chance right now. You got two of the top, sticks in all of Texas, right there that know this lake. So hit us up with it. Now, here's one thing I will ask you, Guillermo. Somebody asked if you were using a motor at this past event, because I think a motor, based on what you guys have both said, is going to be key for Possum Kingdom because you're telling me and you're telling us the big fish may be spread out. They're not going to be grouped up, which means you may have to have a spot A, a spot B to kind of run to and move to, maybe even take out and load back up and drive somewhere else to try to just piece together you're a solid 5. So A, were you using a motor this event this past weekend, Guillermo, and B, how important do you think a motor will come into play on Possum Kingdom?
Yeah, I was using a motor. I don't have anything fancy. I use a kind of like an Academy Special Mini Coda, nothing fancy. But anyways, yeah, and I do think a motor could be very helpful on Possum Kingdom. There's a lot of water on that lake, and there's a lot of places that you can get to with a motor that might be difficult without one. But if you don't have a motor, don't be discouraged, because there's a lot of really good water on that lake. There's good fishing all over the lake, from the south all the way up north. And I sincerely believe that you could launch probably out of any ramp on that lake and win the tournament if you put the pieces to the puzzle together correctly. I sincerely believe that.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice. No, that's the truth.
How's the I was reading a comment there, so I may have missed it. Did you say the access was really good? There's a lot of good access on the lake, or how is the access?
You can launch, if you want to launch south, there's south access. If you want to launch mid lake, there's access just about everywhere. I mean, you might have to pedal a couple miles or motor a couple miles, but for the most part, there's plenty of good access. There's a few places that don't have access, but if you had a motor, you could reach those places.
So
right.
Here's
and bring money.
Yeah. I'm going to pull up Eric's question, and I'm going to just evolve it into an overall general question. He said, after the freeze, do you think the shad spawn got hurt? Obviously, Texas had a pretty rough winter. Do you see any effect of that currently, or have an effect on that coming up to this big event for the Bass Nation?
I mean, if you've seen what's going on in Texas this year, I mean, the lakes and fish are as healthy as they've ever been. Every lake's busting 15-pounders and new lake records, and I mean, I don't think you have to worry about shad spawns and shad populations and fish. It's healthy here right now. I mean, if you saw from the Trinity River event, I mean, things are good in Texas, man. Don't worry. You just got to come here and figure them out.
Yeah.
And Possum Kingdom specifically is on a really good trip right now.
It took 39 pounds.
Yeah.
I was going to say it took 39 pounds to win up.
Wow. When was that tournament? When was it?
Saturday.
Oh, this past Saturday? Is this like a regional or local club, or?
Yeah, it's like a local club.
Local club, 39. So that's crazy. I mean, it's the time of year to do it. Obviously, you guys showed that. Morgan's asking a question. What do you expect the water temperature to be? Morgan, we already answered that, but I'll tell you real quick again. They expect it to be somewhere in anywhere high 70s to low 80s, somewhere in that general range, give or take. So, but no, that's good. That's good. Any other questions? You guys just keep spouting them off. I know Rod Bailey's here's what he says. Here's his comment. And he says, just keep Matt off the Brazos and you may have a chance. So I think he's obviously talking about the lower Brazos, which is really probably considered the middle, but lower, below Possum Kingdom.
Well, below PK. I mean,
yeah.
I really fish and guide all up and down the Brazos, just depending on what we're fishing for.
Right. So yeah, for sure. If we can keep Matt off the Brazos, we have a chance. And I think we're going to have a chance because, we're on Possum Kingdom, and in the mud, Brazos is the only thing flowing in that's the Brazos there. So we have a chance, I guess. We have a chance.
You're telling me there's a chance.
Yeah, the tournament's not on the middle or lower Brazos, so that's good. So, all right. Well, let's see. Any other thoughts do you have, Ken, or anything else we need to kind of cover on about this lake before we?
So, I mean, it's a little late in the podcast, but this is a 2-day event, and they normally only hold 1-day events, correct, for Bass Nation?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a championship. It's being a 2-day event, so it's a little bit different setup than what you're used to for a Bass Nation event, but it's the big one. And it recently got changed to Possum Kingdom from a different area of water, and the date got changed as well.
That's right.
Within the past 6 months. So a lot of this stuff was up in the air. And it's only been a month since that change or so? Yeah. A month and a half, 2 months.
Yeah, not too long.
So, everybody has the freshest eyes and map studies on it just a month in, because everything got switched on everyone when this was planned for over a year ago. So it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah, I was bummed about that switch, honestly. I know you guys are probably excited about it, but I'm sure you've each fished
We were
like
looking forward to
Louisville.
Louisville too.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was.
it didn't matter. I mean, PK is good, but Louisville would have been exceptional, and I think Guillermo and I were both looking forward to it.
Yeah, I was too, man. I mean, I'd studied that lake so much. I was so looking forward to it because it sounded like it was going to be tough, like it was going to be a grind. So many contestants were already just mentally just out of it. You know what I mean? Like, oh my goodness, the traffic and how tough this lake is. So I was excited about it because I don't know, those are the tournaments I kind of like. So anyway, but it's all good. It is what it is now, and we'll look forward to probably catching a little bit bigger fish, which will be nice. Morgan's got a question. Right here, real quickly, pull up. He said he joined late. Did you already talk about the forage? You guys, I mean, we just talked about the shad spawn, but what else? What else can anglers expect to be imitating with their baits? What other kind of forage is in there that are primarily the bass eat?
I mean, all your usual bass fishing forage is in there. You got crawfish, you've got shad, you got gizzard shad. There's shiners in there and minnows in there. They eat crappie, they eat bluegill. You know, just your typical bass fishing forage. I mean, if you know, just come the same way you fish any other lake, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. So
Just go fish.
Yeah, with the here's what I think is cool about this lake. I will say this: if you're from up north, drop shotting is your thing, or just vertically fishing. I mean, I feel like you could do that at the lower end of this lake. It's just so deep, and you got cliffs, and you know what I mean. I feel like you could do that here or there.
You can
and also,
drop shot on so much of the lake if you wanted to. If that's your thing, it's more than the lower half. You could do it all over the lake.
All over. So then, and I feel like if you're a chunk and winder like I am, typically spinner baits and buzz baits, chatter baits, stuff like that. Maybe throw a jig every once in a while, swim baits. I feel like there's a lot of shallow as you move up the lake. You got plenty of area to do that as well. So it's not like somebody's water. You are, if you're on St. Clair or you're on Erie or whatever, like somebody's water, you're sort of just like, this is kind of the deal. You know what I mean? On this lake, it seems like you guys have already said you could put in any ramp and win it, you feel like. And so that means you got the different depths all over the lake. You could probably win it with the multitude of different styles because we're in that perfect water temp where they're not all offshore. You know, they're not seeking a thermocline. You know, they're kind of just still some that probably are, some that are still lingering where they in the spawning areas where they were. So it's definitely going to set up to be who can take their style from wherever they live. So, you know, our Canadian Antoine, hey, you know, whatever your style is, you can probably take it, apply it to Possum Kingdom and have success. And that's what I'm excited about, just kind of finding my little area of the lake. I'm going to try to find a plan A, B, and C that's within a motor's distance, like you guys said, or have another area that I can trailer to that's got a couple A, B, and C's within that spot and just see what happens. So, and if I'm really smart, I'm going to keep my eyes peeled and a pair of binoculars. I'm going to look out and try to find you guys in the lake.
Well, we won't be out there very long because we're fishing the Hobie B.A.S. on Sam Rayburn the Saturday and Sunday prior to that. So we won't be getting on the PK until Monday sometime if we're lucky.
Okay, greedy, going after the B.A.S. and then hitting the championship. So I like it, man. You guys are just full schedules. Y'all tearing it up this year, and man, it's exciting. I can't wait to see you guys at Dardanelle, where we'll be able to high five in person and fist bump and just celebrate your win, man. That's amazing, both y'all's wins. So happy for you guys personally. I know Ken is too, and unless we have any other questions, we can wrap this thing up. Ken, any other thoughts or questions that we missed? I mean, I feel like no one pried them hard enough to get some real. I feel like no one really tried.
Nobody went after the juice very much. No,
I don't think so. Well,
they come in the PMs. So don't worry.
Yeah, no, I mean, you guys showed out great. I know that a couple of you are very top picks on the fantasy game that we run. So you showed out for that, and those people that have you guys on their teams, which we are figuring.
This guy, I got Guillermo on my team.
Yeah.
So,
and we with the. I'm getting caught up with it. There's a couple things I'm figuring out with that to get it updated faster, but because of trying to find accurate information to input with the payouts and such. But we're going to get that updated as soon as possible once I get that figured out, so everybody knows what's going on with that too. But it's a fun ride. I love watching you guys. I look for your names in every event because I know that you're always within striking distance of whoever's up top. And I have to admit, I saw Jody up there with 109, and Guillermo, I saw your stringer, and I saw those 2 16s on there, and I was like, that's not safe. I was like, that's not safe. He's getting up there somewhere. I was like, there's no way those 16s are sticking around. So it was exciting to see that actually pop off. So.
Yeah, no doubt, man. It was pretty crazy. I couldn't believe it when I saw that for sure. I was looking at those photos like everybody else, and I was like, dude, we have to figure out some sort of scale to equate the weight to the lengths. I got to know. What do you think your 5 fish were, Guillermo?
Well, I weighed 3 of them. And to tell you that I remember the exact ounces would be a lie, but I know the big bass on my scale read 10.33.
Mm-hmm.
I know that the second biggest that I caught weighed 8.14. I know the third biggest that I caught weighed 7.07. I'm pretty sure those are actually exact numbers. And so the other 2 that I caught, one of them I'm guessing was right. My best guess was just under 7 pounds. And then my last fish was a 4-pounder. So
36, 37, 38 pounds.
Yeah, right around there.
Dude, that's unreal. I feel like I feel like the mainstream bass fishing world just doesn't even know. They don't even have a clue what's going on and how good our anglers are. And it's not always done in kayak only water. Like a lot of it's done where bass boats can get to. It's not all kayak only. So, I mean, I just wish they really understood what's going on, and they're starting to. You know what I mean? That's Bass is involved, obviously. But
I spent a lot of that day in whitecaps.
there you go. I mean,
that answers that.
Oh, we got a little something out of him. So
yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, I was out doing mainly.
Let's get to triangulating.
Yeah. Whitecap doesn't. You know, we know he's not up a little creek. That's for sure. Okay, he's not doing.
I wasn't up a little itty bitty creek. No.
The Drew special. Do you got how much of the feel? I feel like kayak fishing. We have some of the best anglers on the planet, but we may not be as deep, you know what I mean, as at the top where there's a lot of really good anglers, but maybe it's not as deep as, the bass boat world, because there's just so many people that fish in the bass boat world and so many really good tournament trails out there with high entry fees. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like at the top level, we could compete with any of those guys on, the Elite Series. I mean, even Major League Fishing, any of them. I really do. I feel like we have anglers that are that talented with you guys and the Jodys, the Christines, the Russ Snyders. You just keep throwing any name out there you want. And we've got just such talented anglers just leading the way in kayak fishing. Don't you guys agree we could compete with a lot of those top anglers in the bigger bass fishing in the boat world?
I think there's no doubt, we do have some fantastic anglers, and when we go to all the same lakes they do, and if you were to equate some of our totals to their totals on a lot of those same lakes, we'd be right up there with them. I have no doubt in my mind around it. Now, there's no doubt they have the amount of talent that they have in those top tier trails. I think definitely surpasses what we have in terms of sheer numbers. The amount of great anglers that you got to be in those trails is just absurd. And what those guys have accomplished is not to be understated. But I do believe that a lot of the top tier guys in kayak fishing can, on any given day, could go one-on-one with those guys and beat them.
Yeah. I agree, man. I agree. Matt, you got any comments on that one?
No, I pretty much agree with what G said.
Yeah.
I don't think that I'm going to jump in a bass boat anytime soon and, try competing with these guys. But, I think, any given Saturday, we could definitely hold our own with some of them,
Yeah, I think so. Zach's asking any lodging recommendations. You guys have any idea what's around there? I picked up an Airbnb, so I'm staying with Tim Perkins and Lance Cooley, but
Yeah, unfortunately, like where Possum Kingdom is at, there's not a lot of lodging. You can look for maybe some camping in the area. There's the state park and some other options potentially to camp around the lake. It doesn't have a lot of hotels. It's not a huge touristy area, you know. People aren't going
Yeah.
out there for, you know, a lot of, you know, just events and stuff. So there's not a lot of hotels, unfortunately. But I think if you look into it, you can find something, you know, an Airbnb or a place to camp or something like that. And the weather should be nice for camping if that is something you're interested in.
Yeah, that's true. It should be perfect for camping.
Worst case scenario, you got the city of Mineral Wells, which I believe is the actual host city. That's got all kinds of
There you go.
lodging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that
cool.
should be within driving distance of anywhere.
Mineral Wells, I think, is about 40 minutes from PK.
Not bad. So not bad.
It's not bad. It's all highway.
Right. All right, guys. Well, that's awesome. You know, Ken and I might stick around and talk a little bit more, but we can let you guys go. Hang on. This might be a good comment to show before we let you guys go, because it's a very nice compliment to you guys. Daniel says, I had the pleasure of meeting Matt and Guillermo at Lake Fork a year or so ago. Much respect for these two, as they're willing to give me some pointers to help put fish in the kayak. That's pretty much sums up my experience too. I remember talking to you, Matt, at one of the KBF National Championships, maybe the one I got second in. And man, you just opened up like a book, and we're just every time I talk to you, I have to admit, man, I've even told this to people. I said the questions that he was asking me, I didn't like that he was asking those questions. I didn't like that he knew that much about bass. And I was like, that guy's, he's dangerous. He answered, if he asks those kind of questions, he's dangerous. Same with Guillermo, man. We've had some good times and great talks as well, you know, around tournaments. And I'd love to obviously continue to have more, but we had a good talk in the Flint River for the Hobie B.A.S. over there on Seminole.
Yeah, for sure.
And just always enjoy talking with you, man. And just so blessed to have you guys as part of the kayak fishing community. And before I let you guys leave, do you want to thank anybody, any sponsors out there, anyone just that really help make your life a little bit easier and what you do a little bit easier?
You go for it, G.
Well, sure, I'll go for it. Well, of course, I'd really like to thank Diablo Paddle Sports. They put me in a platform where I can fish to my strengths. You know, I am the kind of angler that really I like to get shallow. I like to get in the spit and find those fish. And I like a platform that I can stand in comfortably all day. And so, you know, I thank them for all their support. I'd like to thank St. Crockett. I was using, you know, what's crazy is I was out there on Eagle. I was flipping some pretty heavy cover, and I had two rods that I was using, and one of them was an extra heavy, but I left my other extra heavy at home, and I had to go down to a 7.4 heavy. And I was in that stuff with that 7.4 heavy yanking. Y'all already saw what I was yanking out of that stuff. And man, that rod really excelled. It was the Legend Elite 7.4 heavy. They just came out with the Victory 7.4 heavy, and that rod is bad to the bone too. That's the rod that I used on Lake Fork to put up a pretty good sack during the B.A.S.S event. But I'd also, of course, I'd like to thank Excite Baits. I was using one of their craws at this previous tournament. I used it quite a bit, and I've been using their swim baits in a lot of my tournaments. The Shad Nasty swim baits, good little bait. And I'd like to thank Werner Paddles as well. You know, they let us use motors, but the value of having a good paddle still exists. And it's not until you put a good paddle in your hand that you realize that value is still out there. A lot of people in kayak undervalue what having a good paddle, whether you have a motor or not, having a good paddle on your boat can do for you. And they're my favorites, and I've been fishing with them for years. And so I'd really like to thank them for their support, and also the effort that they put forth to make a good paddle for the kayak angler.
Nice. Matt, what about you?
Yeah, just a few NRS. I mean, they always take care of me, keep me outfitted with the nicest fishing clothes to help keep me from getting sunburned and windburn and everything else. Fish longer, fish more comfortably. So huge thanks to them for that. Mariner Cells, same. They keep me outfitted with kayaks every year. For the guide service, and I break a lot of stuff and have clients break a lot of stuff, and they're always there to help me get me back on my feet, as soon as possible. So huge thanks to Mariner Cells. Excite baits, just like Guillermo said, use a lot of their soft plastics, and square bill crankbaits are really phenomenal. I will give y'all a secret for everybody that's listened to the show this long. And we had a big
nice.
we had a big tournament on Possum Kingdom, the Lone Star Throwdown, 2 years ago, and I won.
Don't do it, Matt.
My fish.
Don't do it, Matt.
4 of my fish came on a XB1. Excite Baits XB1. So if you want to win or have a good chance at winning the tournament, you're going to need to stock up on Excite Baits XB1s, because that would put a 23 and a bunch of other really nice fish in my boat that day.
Nice. All right, cool, man. Hey, that's something. So if you stuck around this long, you got a nice little tip there at the end. And, I can't wait to get over there and try to find some 23s myself, man. It's going to be exciting. But before then, we got Dardanelle, and 23 there would go a really long way, much, much further than even, down there. So hopefully we can find some big fish. And why don't we just go, 1, 2, 3 at Dardanelle? How about that? Would you guys like that? Let's just make a pack.
Hey, I'm fine with that. Top 3 is good in my book in any order. So.
Yeah, exactly. Now.
So Drew, you're claiming 2, right?
Dude, no, this is Hobie. Hobie's different. I've only finished first or fourth or seventh. That's it.
You were first in AOI, man.
Yeah, in AOI too. Yeah, first in AOI, and I did win at Dardanelle, so I will be trying to back up.
There you go.
That victory.
There you
go. But I don't care, man. First, second, or third, I would be thrilled. I would take it right now. And
you can't complain about that.
No, you can't. And so you guys are basically, what the goal is, probably, obviously you got good AOI points in KBF. Your goals is to probably be in contention for AOI in both KBF and Hobie by the time the championships roll around, right? I mean, is that safe to say?
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean, I think there's a legitimate chance for both of those.
Yeah, well, you guys are right there, man. Great job, everybody. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. And we'll just keep an eye out for you guys in the future tournaments, and I'll see you guys at Dardanelle. So we'll let you guys go. Thanks again, and good luck.
Have a good one,
everybody.
Guys. Thank you.
Follow along with the other podcasts that Guillermo and those guys are going to be on.
You guys.
Appreciate it. No problem, guys. Catch you later.
Yeah.
See ya.
Later.
All right, that was awesome, and I think we kept it at a pretty decent amount of time there. We didn't.
It's the shortest episode we've done in the past 4.
Well, I'm still sitting here, and you're still sitting here, so
yeah,
you know me. I
time.
can start to talk, but definitely a couple great guys, and I mean, like everyone said in the comments, 2 of the best guys in the industry and best anglers. Now, a lot of people don't even know this. Like you and I, man, they're super close friends. I think they were even roommates in the past, and just super tight. And so for them to kind of battle the same way we sort of battled, that was just really cool. That happened in back-to-back, tournaments. Yeah, that's crazy. It's crazy. So who out there watching has a good friend? Get them signed up. You guys go together next tournament.
Fish
you guys,
separate waters, though. That's the trend. That's where it's really trend. You're friends, and you're battling it out 1 and 2, but you have to be on separate waters.
Yeah, go separately. That's pretty cool. But yeah, huge thanks to those guys for the time they took, because honestly, I requested them probably, I don't know, a long time ago. I told Matt, I called him and told him I'd love to have, once it got switched to Possum Kingdom, I said, I'd love to have you on, Matt, because, you seemed like you're one of the experts. And he was the one who said to me, dude, and Guillermo, it's like his home waters too. He knows it just as well. And I said, perfect. Let's have both you guys on. I love Guillermo. So that worked out great. And then it just happened to be, that they both won. It worked out. So wasn't trying to,
Can we make shirts that say I love Guillermo? Kind of like the Pedro shirts.
Pedro. Yeah, we should. We should.
Vote
Absolutely.
Guillermo.
Well, dude, there's certain people, man, I don't know, certain people nobody ever has a bad thing to say about them. And Guillermo's just one of those people. It's like a Matt Ball, you know what I mean? Or Jody, like who's ever said a bad word about those guys? I speak my opinion a little bit. I'm sure somebody out there said a bad thing or two about me, but I hope I'm generally liked, but I'm not afraid to definitely speak up a little bit about the industry and, you know what I mean? Just give our opinions, but it's really in a constructive way. I'm never trying to we're never trying to put anyone down. It's just constructive. But I'm telling you, those guys there are top notch. So big thanks to them. And do you want to talk about anything else, or what do you want to do here? Well, we have a few people still on.
Well, what are we doing here? You're going to Dardanelle. And then you're pretty much off for May, right?
Yeah, May. Well, no, that's not. Kind of. I'm going to go fish the B.A.S.S. Lake Eufaula tournament around the border of Georgia and Alabama. So I'll be down there for that. And then that's May 1st. And once that's over, I'm kind of taking most of May off. I think these guys do it right. The guys who have the ability to get out there and fish that many. I mean, these things are just too much fun. You know what I mean? I can't commit to doing like 20, like the Cody Miltons and, whoever else.
Be out there more.
Josh Stewart, Christine. I would, but it's too much fun, man. I'm glad that, it's fun that we have the fantasy game. I'm glad we have it so we can follow along with these guys. On the downside, you gotta compete against them, and they're getting more chances, right? More chances. But
no, I mean, I'm like every time it gets closer to an event like Dardanelle, I'm like, man, could I have made it work? And I'm like, but it is what it is.
Well, and look at this last event, dude. At Pickwick, Wilson and Wheeler, you didn't have any time to pre-fish, which sort of probably tells you now that maybe I should, even though I don't have time because people are scared if they don't have pre-fishing time, they're scared to go. But we had a rare situation where it flooded and everyone's pre-fishing was just like thrown out the window. If you fished a creek, it was red. And by Friday, when you rolled in, we were all back to like square one. So, and that's another good example of what we were just talking about. You have Pickwick, Wilson and Wheeler right after the B.A.S.S Elite Series was there. And like Guillermo said, he kind of estimated his total at 36 to 38 pounds. I was estimating our totals at around 25 pounds. Because we had the same 98 and what was it, 3/4?
Yeah, 98.75.
So, I mean, the Elite Series guys that was like the highest they were catching was around, I believe, 25 pounds. Mm-hmm. So at the highest, the highest anyone caught any day was probably in that 25-pound range, if not even that much, maybe. Yeah. 23, 22 was kind of the highest. So, I mean, we're right there with those guys. And I'm glad to see, B.A.S.S in this game. And I'm hoping what B.A.S.S does after they continue to see the growth and the economic impact that kayak fishing is bringing to their organization, not just in the kayak side, but in the fact that more people are becoming fans of everything else they do with the bass boat tournaments. And it kind of gets you involved in that stuff. Again, that's more clicks, that's more downloads, it's more impressions. They can continue to grow their sponsorships. But I'm hoping they will do an Angler of the Year. So instead of having just 6 events, 5 events in a championship, we'll eventually get an AOI in the B.A.S.S, just like we have in the Hobie and the KBF. And then maybe they can expand a little bit, maybe at least get to 7 or 8 events and then a championship, and then take your best 3, have some sort of point system. And then we'll actually have an AOI sort of, prize for that too. That'd be kind of cool. So we'll see. We'll see if we get there, man. But I'm excited to get to Texas and check it out. And I mean, I really am tempted to hit that, like they were saying, to hit the Hobie BOS over there at Sam Rayburn. I was tempted, but geez, man, I've just never been to Possum Kingdom, and I think I'm going to need that pre-fishing time. But I could always pull a Ken Morris and just go in with like one day.
Yeah, 2 hours on water.
Yeah, 2 hours. Yeah, I could, but
it's possible. But do you want to gamble on it? It's not what I'd like to do every time. But I mean, I like to place like that. I'd like to win every time, but the prep was not exactly what you preferred to do.
Yeah, it's not what you prefer. So, but Eric Morris just said he just got a win on Dardanelle on Saturday for the NSKA Central. So it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to get there, Eric, to kind of circle back to that because we fished it in like August, I think. It was like late August, maybe, or September. Yeah. I don't know. Was it August? Yeah.
It had to
late August.
It was after it was like late summer minimally because you fished the last 3 possible Hobies pretty much.
That's right.
to squeak out that AOI.
Yeah, 86 and 3/4 inches, I think, was what somewhere I had about 85, 86 each day. And I was in a tie with Eric Siddiqui, and I was fortunate to be on the good side of that tiebreaker for the first time. I've lost a lot of tiebreakers, dude, a lot. I mean, I lost to Tony Yang in that very first opening championship for KBF. Lost to you. Even on the second day of the tournament at Pickwick, I lost to a tiebreaker to get, instead of third, I got fourth. But this was the one time it worked out for me. And anyway, Dardanelle should be interesting. I think we're going to be in the low 90s for that one. Personally, if you get in the low 90s for 2 days, even if you just got 90 for 2 days, I think you can win that thing. But it's going to be, I believe, I'm not going to dig into it because you should go back, everyone, and watch the Hobie B.A.S.S Open Series podcast with AJ and Steve, and that we had Jody Queen on, and Jody and I talked about Dardanelle, and that's pretty. We dug into it pretty deep, so I would go watch that one. But I feel like it's going to be low 90s for 2 days because we're in the spring. So if 86 was winning it, a day, about 86 a day in the summer, I feel like it should jump up to about low 90s. So that's my prediction, and I'm definitely going to be watching out for the Russes, the Jodys, the Cody Milton, who's local in Arkansas there, and Guillermo and Matt again. I think Guillermo did well in that event last year. I believe he was in the top 10. So I'm watching out for all those guys, and but all you can do is compete against the fish, right? So I'm going to see.
I mean, you gotta beat yourself first. You have to compete against yourself. Go out there and put yourself in the best situation that you can, because that's the only thing you can really control.
Yeah,
You've said it multiple times. You can't really play defense. So
no,
you worry about what those guys are doing because you can't help it, because that's just how our brains work. But at the end of the day, you can only do what you choose to do. Like you can't stop them from finding a good spot. So
the water is going to be higher, I believe. So it's going to be flowing a little bit more in the obviously than the summer. So that's going to change things. I think you can find some clear water to sight fish if you're into that. The fish should be spawning. It's going to be a really, really fun event to go and fish. So it's a great fishery. If you guys are interested in, joining that event, you can look it up. It's the Hobie B.A.S.S Open Series, $260 to enter, and it's not too late to get into the AOY race over there. Lots of events left. So go join in. It's a fun one because there's so much good kayak access and so many good backwaters that boats can get to. So it's a great pick for a kayak, tournament to be on. So I'm excited. And, unless you have anything else, again, guys, I think we're going to just wrap this up unless you have any last comments here.
Oh, I think that's it. I'm going to be splitting my time this weekend. I'm going to be joining our friends down at Raccoon Creek for their opening weekend, hang out with them. So hopefully I have enough service to check in on you and Dardanelle and what's going on there while I'm messing around down there. So
nice, man. Nice. And hey, Eric, again, congrats on that win on Dardanelle. That's pretty awesome, man. I know you're going to be probably going to be there and be a very strong competitor to beat as well. So, I mean, obviously you just won, so you kind of know what's going on. So, if you want to chime in any last minute comments here about what to do, then you chime it in. We'll be happy to take them, man. But
juice.
Yeah, he's got the juice, it sounds like. So we'll have to go back and see if we can find any intel on that event, if NSKA has any sort of details on that. But, hey, in the meantime, again, thanks for everyone for watching, for listening. If you're on the audio, and the last thing I want to say, we don't really say this much because we just kind of do this on a whim. We love it. We enjoy it. But I can't thank you guys enough for watching, for listening. It really helps us out if you guys go to iTunes and give us a rating or a review. Go do that. It'll help out a lot. Same on the YouTube and the Facebook. Really appreciate it. We just enjoy doing this. I mean, it's not really, none of my partners, sponsors ever said, hey, go do a podcast and all this. We just love to talk fishing. You know what I mean? I'd be calling Ken or somebody, some of my friends in the industry just talk fishing anyway. So we might as well get it out of our system right here in front of you guys. And again, thanks for all the comments that you guys are, and the questions you guys ask. It helps keep the show going a little bit, so we really appreciate that. So thanks for tuning in. And again, thanks to Crescent Kayaks. This is our live stream in the current. We call it Going Live in the Current. Thanks to Crescent for all they do for us. And Real Tree Fishing, other main headline sponsor of mine this year. So big thanks to them. And, Ken, close it out here. What you got?
Put me on the spot, just like you did when your Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
Theo dropped your Wi-Fi.
I know. How's life as a champion, dude? A week later or two.
It's finally settling down. It's getting back to normal. The hype is a little bit going down, especially when people like Guillermo are throwing up 110 half inches. Who cares about what I did anymore? But yeah, no, it's nice. It's still thinking about, what tackle I want to buy, or what do I do with that prize money? What do I want to get set up for? But I haven't really figured that out yet either. But yeah, just excited for more tournaments to come up, more fishing to get going. Watching you at Dardanelle, getting the Crescent out. I took the crew out over the weekend to play with the motor guide. I literally just didn't fit. I fished I made a few casts, of course, but I mainly just cruised around the lake just to see what was going on and just enjoy the boat and how it moves through the water. So that was cool. Got up it's a pretty shallow lake and super weedy, and I had that motor guide pulled up a lot higher than normal, and I was still going over 5 miles per hour. So it definitely books. But,
cool.
Yeah, that's about it. I thanks, you said it. Thanks to Crescent. I personally don't have much more to say other than that. I use Z-Man products. They're great, obviously, and all that stuff. But if you're in Northeast Ohio, you can check out Kayak Anglers or Pennsylvania, that sort of stuff. You always see that in my background, wherever that's at. But nothing really else going on here.
Cool.
All right. Bit of a drought.
So then we'll do an update after Dardanelle. We'll do a little tournament recap there, and then we'll probably talk about some other stuff that's going on in the industry, because something always happens in the bass fishing world. Every week something changes and something happens that we have to touch on and talk about. So until then, guys, as always, hashtag live in the current. We appreciate you guys tuning in. And thanks again for hopping on, Guillermo and Matt Scotch. Catch you guys later.
Thank you.
All right. See ya.